Big boy whipping up in that kitchen. Hey, let me tell you a lesson, just listen. You niggas talking, you ain't even got no chicken. Ooh, we down speed racing. Niggas talking, they ain't really baby case, bitch. I've been posted with the chopper on the Nate, bitch. Niggas talking hard till I call my nigga tape, bitch. Shout out Big Bro, I swear to God, he's 7'9", nigga. You wanna die, nigga? I'm trying to take a nigga life, nigga. Kick the pipe, nigga. I just fucked a nigga wife, nigga. Fucked her twice, nigga. Let her go and let her bite, nigga. Ooh, it's a chase down. If I catch a nigga lacking, better shake down. Niggas talking, but I ain't really with the play round. 50 in this case, swear to God, this a K round. I'ma bounce out the load if the Jake's chasing. I've been touching to this cheese, bitch, I'm speed racing. Niggas talking like they with it, but on face they time. Bitch, I'm on your line, I do a crime when I do my time. Nigga, what you mean, though? Fiend ass nigga, on my mama, you a fiend, ho. Hit the Greek, though. Ryan with a Greek, though. I keep the heat, though. Get up on him, get him beat, ho. City minute C, ho. Bitch, I'm chasing Milo. Nigga talking hard, but he don't even got the Greek, though. Ooh, nigga, what the fuck you mean? You ain't take the cheese, shout out bro, bitch, he from the team. Bitch, you niggas know how the fuck we tryna play. Niggas talking like they with it, but they talking to the J's. Niggas, they be hoes, nigga, they just bent these niggas' face. I been riding with a 40, shoot a nigga in his face. Dome a nigga, but you know we ain't taking no glass. Nigga won't smoke, I get up on his motherfucking ass. Niggas talking like they with it, they just chasing that bag. Bitch, I'm chasing bags to the 30, I bounce to the Mac. I bounced the 40 with the 30, I just bounced the strap. This 40 hopping like a bunny, bitch, I need the money. Bitch, I'm with the team, I get up on him like a fucking bunny. And if a nigga talking hard, he better get that money. And yo, bitch, suck his dick like it's fucking honey. Ooh, you see my grill, nigga? If I catch a nigga lacking, we gon' kill niggas. Hey, you niggas, y'all be hoes, I don't feel niggas. Hey, nigga, what you mean? Niggas hoes, man, these niggas fiends. I been tasting big God, bitch, I need the cheese. If a nigga talking hard for, he seem like a leash. Nigga, with that? Niggas talking, I'ma knock off this fucking cap. Niggas talking, but they talking to them fucking rats. Bounce out with Lil Black, he hit him in his tap. Ooh, we hit his top, bitch. Before he hit a fucking face with a stock clear. Niggas talking, but I ain't even seen drop shit. You niggas talking, you ain't even got a mob stick. Bob stick, my nigga drop shit. You ain't drop shit. You a odd bitch. It's 40 on me, fucking stock clip. You got a mob stick, and you niggas sending all this. I'm a ball, bitch. I stand tall until I fall, bitch. Ooh wee. I am not lying. Niggas talking to these bullets when they start flying.
Proverbs 22 and verse 6. Train up a child in the way that he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. The rich ruleth over the poor, and the borrower is a servant to the lender. So when it says train up a child in the way that he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it, it's just talking about the proper understanding of what it means to instill, the principles, the knowledge, the wisdom into your son, into your child, your son or your daughter. So when they grow up, they understand their place in life. They understand their position. They understand that they have a purpose just based off of the foundation from the household. This is why I always emphasize the household. These verses, they just go hand in hand. Train up your child in the way that he should go. Understanding that when it comes to the so-called black community, we have to train our children, especially the young boys, that when it comes to what they face in this society, they're going to be of scrutiny. They're going to have enemies just by the mere fact that they're God's chosen, as well as the fact that, they're so-called black in this society. And they have to instill in their child the understanding of how to circumvent in this life. Like I said, I did a video on the brother James Booknight, who plays for the Charlotte Hornets. He grew up with me. And I was able to identify a close hand, which is why it was something that really touched me in regards to making that video, because I actually know the brother and I'm proud of that brother. So it's important for us to understand when it comes to this iniquitous society, all these avenues of deception and sin, sometimes we get enamored by it to the point where we internalize it, to the point where we may become possessed by the demonic element of this world. And that's what you saw in the beginning of this video. These children, they listen to these songs, and the more they listen to it, it becomes ingrained in their head, to the point where they start to rap like the artist that they listen to. Same cadence and all. Like, you can tell that was either written or freestyle, but he did it in a way where it was so convincing because of the demonic possession. That's possession that brother was under, that young brother. He probably younger than 15. But at the end of the day, it's important for us to understand when it comes to these avenues of spiritual attack, where spell casting and whatnot, and most of these children, they become subjected to it, they become susceptible to it easily. This is why it's important for us to instill in our child the right understanding so they know how to, navigate through this life, man. In verse 7, it says, the rich ruleth over the poor. So they already got an advantage over us. We already know the rich is synonymous with sin, iniquity, so on and so forth. Not to the degree of, generalizing it, but in this world, the rich is synonymous with the sinful element, the left-hand element, iniquity, so on and so forth. So the rich ruleth over the poor, and the borrower is a servant to the lender. So we are subjected to this iniquitous society. That's what this is pretty much getting into. And obviously we understand that we in a credit-based society, so we pretty much debt slaves. That's the borrowing aspect. The lender is, we already know that these people in this society, it's all based off of tax. So when it comes to the money, it's not real money, it's fiat money. We're being taxed when we spend money. So that's the lending aspect. Everything is all based on usury. But in a different sense, when it comes to the twofold aspect of this scripture, it's just talking about us being subjected to the power structure. And when it comes to the strength of that power structure, these young children, they pretty much take on an aspect of the power structure based off of them being so feeble-minded. This is the matrix. So they're born into this matrix and they take on the iniquitous aspects of this society. Why do you think they push all this left-hand music, this left-hand vibration? Because they understand that kids are feeble-minded and they're going to pretty much, grab onto it. These young kids, they listen to this music, this Lil Durk and Pooh Shiesty and King Von, all these crazy ass artists where they talk about all this iniquity. It's important for us to understand why they push these artists. They push these artists because they push anarchy. We live in a satanic society. We do not live in a righteous society. So if we were living in a righteous society, you wouldn't be seeing videos like this. It's all about the culture of this society. The majority of people on this earth, they're products of this society. And some of them don't even understand that because they're feeble, they're children. Not even talking about actual children. You know what I mean? So it's important for us to identify the spiritual elements, whether it be the left hand or the right hand. And most of our children, they're being possessed. They're being spiritually attacked. What you saw in the beginning of that video was a manifestation of a person that was spiritually attacked, unbeknownst to them. Because in the left hand, we look at the left hand things as good. So certain people, they wouldn't even look at that as all that negative. Some people in their right mind would say, yo, like, what's going on? This little kid talking about this and that. But for the most part, people don't care. It's like this thing where some of these fathers, because I know them personally, they have children where they don't care about smoking weed around them. Like, they'll smoke around their child. Like, it's just crazy. Like, I'd be like, why? Like, I was at a cookout the other day. People were smoking weed, this and that. And like, I'm like, yo, the dude is over, the little boy is over here. Like, you got to get him away. You don't want him around all that smoke. He's like, he always around me. It don't matter. Like, he be in the house. I smoke with him in the house. This is why we are falling. This is why we are failing. This is why we are at the bottom, because of silly stuff like that, where people justify doing base level things in front of their kid. They don't understand that their kid is feeble-minded, so they're going to take on that. This is why they grow up and they start smoking weed. It's the same thing. Like, my cousin, he has a son. He had a son at the age of 16, so he was a child, and he's locked up right now. He's locked up right now, and his son is constantly smoking weed and doing that silly, little kid shit that's popular today in regards to what's in. When I say little kid shit, I'm just talking about these young kids who take on that energy of a Lil Durk and, that left-hand vibration. Listening to the drill music and all that stuff. You know what I mean? Like, that's what's popping. And these kids, they gravitating towards it. You watch videos of these young little kids performing this drill music and saying all this crazy stuff. Not even understanding what they talking about. They just say it because it sound cool. I'll take your life. What life is you taking, little nigga? You know what I mean? Like, it's important for us to understand how to identify the left vibration. Some of us know how to identify it, but we're not strong enough to combat it. And when I say we're not strong enough, I'm talking about some of us aren't willing to do what they need to do to separate their child from that type of nonsense. How do you separate him from that? You teach him the right understanding. If you have the understanding that you're supposed to, pass that on to your child. Train up your child in the way that he should go. And when he is old, he will not depart from it. Stuff like this is really a vexation of spirit because the power of the child is very important. Children are powerful, but they also feeble-minded. When I say they're powerful, I'm just talking about their impact on this society when it comes to the future of it. This is why they focus on the child, because the child is just like Eve. The child is just like Eve, feeble-minded. But in certain cases, the child has a natural inhibition to combat it. But sometimes, the spiritual aspect of where, the power structure breaks certain people down, it shows. And sometimes they don't even have to do that. Sometimes it's just a thing of how, the family was brought up, where it's like a cycle of negativity, a cycle of iniquity, a cycle of a family line that's pretty much, demonic. A demonic element in certain families, they pass on. It's a cycle of it. This is why, I be so frustrated about this world that we live in, man. But at the end of the day, we have to understand that these things must persist because it speaks to the signs of the times. I just wanted to get into another aspect of a young child pretty much getting into something that's base level.
A 15-year-old is under arrest in Noonan for armed robbery. Police say when they arrested him, they discovered a cache of weapons, some of them modified to be fully automatic. Fox 5's Doug Evans has the story, all new at 6.
There's not much we can tell you about this 15-year-old because he is a juvenile, but wait till you hear about his arrest at a home in Atlanta this past week. The Noonan Police Department Drug and Vice Unit, along with Atlanta Police, were investigating an armed robbery that happened in Noonan back in April. They believed a 15-year-old was one of 2 juveniles responsible, and they say they found that kid hiding in a bedroom in Atlanta with the covers pulled over him. Here's what police said they also found in that bed with the teen.
They knew going in that he was in there based on what the woman told them, and they actually found him hiding in a bedroom under covers on a bed with an AR pistol fully loaded with the safety off under the blankets.
They say the kid's finger was on the trigger of the AR pistol. They say they later found 2 more handguns in the bed, including one that was stolen during that armed robbery here last April. They say they found 2 rifles also under the bed. They say all of these guns were in that same bedroom. Many of them were stolen, some from Noonan, Atlanta, Carrollton. In all, more than 10 firearms were seized at that house, along with some extended magazines, double drum magazines for rifles, at least 1 handgun that they say was modified so it could fire continuously, much like a fully automatic. And so for this armed robbery that happened here in April, Noonan police have now arrested 2 juveniles, one 14-year-old that was arrested shortly after the crime, and now this 15-year-old arrested this past week. I'm Doug Evans, Fox 5 News in Noonan.
Just crazy, man. This is a result of bad parenting, or lack of parenting, or no parenting. It's just crazy. A 15-year-old kid booked for armed robbery and the parents don't suspect anything when it comes to what he's getting into. This is why I emphasize the household. He probably didn't come from a good household, obviously, just based off of what we discovered here. Got a kid hiding under blankets with a piece on him. They find him. You're probably going to get charged just like an adult. And it's all a result of bad parenting. Obviously, the kid, he makes his decisions. Sometimes you got these kids who are just out of line and demonic, and there's nothing the parents can really do. But when you see shit like this, most likely 9 times out of 10, the parents ain't doing a good job. And if the parents are doing a good job, then the demon is just on the kid and it's strong. It's just crazy, man. This is why it's important for us to love our children and teach them the right way.